Hey everybody, today is part 3 of a 3-part series on pipeline management. And today I'm going to be talking about your sales dashboard or your KPI dashboard for sales. And this is a really simple topic. I think a lot of people blow it way out of proportion and try to track too many different things all at once. Initially, when you are creating a dashboard, if you don't already have a tool that you use, and there are tons of tools online, tons of resources, I personally think a lot of them are fairly complicated. Then you add in the fees and all the stuff, and then like, is it worth it? Maybe. I use spreadsheets for a lot of these different things. So you can use your Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel, whatever it may be. And I just create really simple dashboards. And one of the things that I always want to track is my stages. So I want to know how many opportunities I have in each stage of the sales process. I want to know how long they've been in each stage and that sort of thing. One of the reasons I want to track that is I want to know what's working and what's not working in my sales process. So if I look at my sales process, going kind of left to right or whatever, you should start off with a scenario where you have a lot of opportunities that come in on one end, and it starts to shrink over time because you bring in a lot of opportunities, then you qualify the opportunities, then you decide whether you're going to bid on the opportunities, and as it goes through the course of things, you're going to have less and less. So you get to a point where you're deciding, hey, we're going to bid, and then we're going to or submit an RFP, whatever it may be, and then we win or lose. That number should be fairly similar regardless of where the big number starts on the other side of things. But we want to be able to track that because, for example, let's say you're going through the process and step 4 is a qualification process, and it seems like you've got a lot of opportunities in step 4. Well, why are you getting stuck in step 4? Or if you are getting to the RFP process and you've still got a lot of opportunities in there, but you're not winning, what's going on in that scenario? What is it about your proposal process that's broken? And so we can start to look at our process and look at that data and determine what's working, what's not working in the business. And that allows us to laser focus and say, hey, I'm going to work on step 4. I'm going to work on step 6. Or, hey, you know what? There's a missing step. And if you've documented your sales process and somebody like myself looks at it, I can easily go, well, hey, you know how you go from step 4 to step 5? Well, there's actually 3 steps in there that you're missing. And so if you document this stuff, then you can talk about it. You can figure out what's going right, what's going wrong. You can make those changes. Now, what are some other KPIs that I'm looking at? Well, win rate is definitely one that I'm looking at. So some people call it, talk about your P win and all that kind of stuff. I don't always necessarily think that's the most important. At the end of the day, it is extremely important that you're winning. But if you're only putting 1 or 2 opportunities in your pipeline a month and you're bidding and you have this high win rate, but you're not making enough money, it's because you're not putting enough opportunities in your pipeline. So I'll also look at it and say, well, look, you're not putting enough opportunities. So number of qualified opportunities that go into your pipeline, that's a KPI that I want to look at. The size of them or average contract value is another KPI because let's say you are converting the number of opportunities you think it takes to win, a certain amount of money, but you're not getting the amount of money. So then you go backwards and look at it and say, well, my average contract value is only $25,000. Well, if I'm going to get to the numbers I need to, that number has to go up. The average contract that I need to bid on needs to be $100,000 or $500,000 or $5 million, whatever it may be for your business. It's all relative, right? But when you're looking overall at your sales KPIs, the average contract value is a number that you need to consider. And you need to look at it, I said this in a previous video, you need to look at it from the perspective of this year. How much of that's going to close this calendar year or fiscal year, however you run your business? How much of that's going to close this year? Not total contract value. Because let's say I close a $5 million, $20 million contract, whatever it is, and it's a 5-year, 10-year contract. I can't count all 5, 10, 20 million of that this year. I can only, account for the base year, especially if some of those years are option years. Now I'm looking at, I'm projecting that down the road, but I can't put that on this year's forecast. And so when you're looking at that kind of thing, you're trying to figure out, do I have the big enough contracts to hit my numbers? So average contract value is one. The win rate, P win, whatever you decide to call it is one. I actually talk about conversion rate all the time. From what's your conversion rate from submittal to win? It's the same thing, but it also that the term conversion rate applies regardless of government or whatever. In the commercial space, people are not going to talk about their P win. They're just not going to do it. And so at the end of the day, you need to know what that conversion rate, P win, whatever you want to call it, make up a name. You need to know what that number is. You need to know the average contract value. You need to know how many opportunities need to be in your pipeline. You need to know how old those opportunities are. So when you're looking at your pipeline and you say, well, how long has this opportunity been in here? You need some way of identifying that, whether it's through your spreadsheet, through a CRM, through some other tool. You need a way to determine when did it come into the pipeline and how long has it been in the pipeline. Those are good things to know. As you grow your company, you'll also look at, hey, how long is the average contract in our pipeline? That's a really good number to be able to know, to be able to say, look, some contracts we close in a month, some we close in 7 or 8 months, but on average, it takes us 4 months to close a brand new contract with a contract value of $100,000. Why is that important? Well, it's important because when you're talking to your sales team, when you are looking at your finances, if you're trying to sell your company and position it, when you're looking at all those kind of things, it helps you as a business owner project cash flow, value, all those sort of things. It also helps with resource allocation. So when you're looking at that to say, hey, we've got 10 opportunities in our pipeline. They've all been in there 3 months. We are likely to close 4 of those in the next 30 days. We need to start recruiting for that. And we need to make sure we've got cash flow for that. I mean, there's all kinds of things that these numbers can help you determine to make decisions, right? And so I typically start with just a handful of KPIs. I start with the stages. I start with that P win or that conversion rate. I start there and I build out from there. You can build a massive spreadsheet. You can get real complex, but just start simple with maybe 5 or 6 different KPIs that you want to track. And from there, you can grow it. A couple other KPIs are like, how many calls did you make this week? Like if you're talking to salespeople, how many contracting officers did you actually speak to, or influencers? Let's say, maybe they're not speaking to contracting officers. Maybe they're speaking to PMs or small business reps, whatever it may be. How many of those people and types of those people did you speak to? That type of thing. How many RFIs do we submit each month? How many RFPs do we submit each month? There's a handful of these that I've just thrown out here that should help you get a starting point. But again, after you've done this for maybe 90 days, you're going to say, I wonder what this number is. Well, let's figure out a way to track that in your dashboard. And then another 3 or 4 months later, you're going to go, I wonder what this number is. Let's figure out a way to track that in your dashboard. And so your dashboard over time is just going to grow. Over the last 8 years, I can't tell you how many times my dashboard has changed significantly. That's just the last 8 years. I mean, 20 years ago, we started off with something very, very small and we made tweaks here and there, but still over the last 8, 10 years, we've made a lot of changes to that thing. So don't worry about making changes to it. It happens to everybody. Just start somewhere, start tracking this stuff, and then you can get better as you go. Now, this was part 3 to a 3-part series on pipeline management. Be sure you subscribe on YouTube to make sure you get notified of other series and things like that we have. And guess what? We have a new series getting ready to start here next week. And be on the lookout for that. We'll be broadcasting that on LinkedIn and it'll pop up on YouTube. So again, make sure you are following us on YouTube to make sure you find out the latest videos when they come available to you. And we'll see you next time.